opened it, we came.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left.
Who are you?
Explorers in the further regions of experience. Demons to some, angels to others.
Call you meatloaf,
Surprise, Sydney.
Come on, don't be chicken shit.
Hello and welcome to How I Met Your Monster, the show where we discuss the introductions to your favorite movie monsters. I'm Zach.
I'm Danny.
And I'm Casey.
And we're headed to Sleepy Hollow.
Headed. Oh, you didn't even notice what you did there.
We're beheaded to Sleepy Hollow.
To meet Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
What's there's a bit in this, like he doesn't say any words, right? But at the end, when he gets like his head back and he's like looking at that girl, you can see like he wants, like his facial features are like speaking like Christopher Walken. Like,
Yeah. Talk to him like that again. I'm gonna have to stab you in the face with a soldering iron.
good thing it wasn't hot chili day. Oh man.
It's so funny. It is a choice. Like he's just like, just FYI, you're not going to talk in this movie, but you're going to grunt quite a bit. He's like, okay. And he just like went all in and he's like, if I'm going to grunt, I'm going to grunt.
Uh-huh. But he's pretty cool.
He is.
Yeah,
Headless Horseman.
it's very cool.
It's funny that we open up talking about like the character
end.
of the Headless Horseman when he's not headless.
Yeah.
It's very cool that he is headless, just because it's like that's not done in any other movies.
Mm-hmm. And do you know who's playing the Headless Horseman version?
No, do you?
Yeah, it's Ray Park, who played Darth Maul
Oh,
Okay.
in the Star Wars. Well, the one Star Wars.
he was so embarrassed by his performance as Darth Maul that he had to cover his face for this. Is that one?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, he also played Frog or whatever his name, or Toad, not Frog. He played Toad in the X-Men movie.
Frog.
He's the character playing Frogger.
That's cool because they filmed this in the UK in the studio that just wrapped Phantom Menace episode 1. So he was just like there. He was already
That
there.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Someone was like peeking in through the doors and they're like, wow, this guy can swing a lightsaber. They're like, but can he swing a sword?
It's like, they say like, oh, in the film industry, like every day's different. It's great. And then he like gets off a movie and then has to go right back to the same set, the same studio. Like,
Yeah, but
damn
this
it.
time it was turned into Sleepy Hollow, which is a real place that I
Yeah.
want to go to.
Yeah, I've never been. I remember as a kid, I always wanted to go, and I had so many people like try to, for whatever reason, try to like talk me out of it. They're like, it's not what you think it's going to be. I'm like, okay, I still want to go. Like, Jesus.
Yeah.
And I look at pictures now and I'm like, wait, that looks so fun. I wish
It's so
I went.
cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are just naysayers.
Yeah. Another little fun fact, we had done a little poll to sort of decide what movie we were going to watch this week. And one of the movies that was on the list was Seven. And Seven was written by Andrew Kevin Walker, who also wrote Sleepy Hollow.
That's
Wow.
right. Yeah.
So we're sort of in his little universe. The odds were in his favor. We were going to talk about one of his movies this week.
So they started developing Sleepy Hollow in 1993. Kevin Yeager
Oh.
he just got done directing a Tales from the Crypt episode, and he wanted to write this Legend of Sleepy Hollow story. So they started working on it, and they got Scott Rudin attached, and he was impressed with Andrew Walker's writing on his spec script for Seven, which had yet to be produced. Crazy.
Oh, that's funny.
But
Look
dude,
at that.
we need to talk for a second about Kevin Yeager, who
Amazing.
he created this story, right? Well, he didn't create the story, but
What if there was a headless horseman in Sleepy Hollow? They're like the book from Washington Irving. this is an original story.
And they developed it, and he was on board to direct, and he wanted to make this like a low budget slasher movie, and the studio was like, no, we're not doing that. So they like demoted him to just the special effects guy, which I mean,
demoted.
I mean, come on. Like the guy who designed Chucky, the guy who did Freddy Krueger's makeup, he designed the Crypt Keeper.
He did two, 3, and 4.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Freddy.
Great Freddy looks too.
He also directed.
My favorite is.
He also directed Hellraiser Bloodline, which is like Hellraiser 4, which is a really fun movie. I like that one.
I just want to point this out because it's not horror related, but he also did all of the effects for the Bill and Ted movies, including Face the Music,
Nice.
which people are like, meh, whatever. But I mean, there was so much makeup in those movies.
Yeah.
Like the old age makeup and
iconic
so
looks
And
in that too.
those fun
So
like
good.
bodybuilder suits.
yeah, where they're in like prison and shit. Yeah.
Stupid.
Yeah,
I love
so good.
That was such a good movie.
He's amazing. And the fake heads in this movie are the best thing I've ever seen. The best
And
thing
the
I've ever seen.
decapitations are like seamless. They'll go from like the person just like running, and then the horseman comes and slices it off, and there's not even a cut, and you see the head fly off, and it's great.
So good.
Well, I wanted to talk very briefly, just enough to say that one of my favorite things about this movie. Now, I should say that this is one of my favorite movies ever. I'm so glad we're doing this. It's one of my favorite Halloween movies. But the cinematography in this movie is so gorgeous that this episode would be a waste if we did not at least take a second to just appreciate how gorgeous it looks. Because you're talking about how seamless it is when they chop off some characters' heads. Mm-hmm. And this is how like almost every decapitation has such like a gorgeous and really beautiful setup. And it's so epic. Mm-hmm. And I know that there's more to it than that. There's like the direction and the editing, but good Lord, the shots of that sword coming out, being like unsheathed. And then, like we said, Ray Park, the guy who plays, and just the way he's like spinning the sword and it's all so perfect.
It is.
Absolutely.
So, Zach, you haven't seen this in like 15 years?
23 years.
What year is it? Oh my God, it's 2022. I literally was trying to think about how many years ago 1999 was, and I
This
said
didn't
15.
come out in 1984.
Yeah, no. So I saw this in the movie theater in 1999, and that was the one and only time that I saw it until last night.
Wow.
Do you love it?
I don't love it. No.
Oh.
I liked it a lot, but
All right, I'm out.
but no, I didn't love it. It was cool. I had a lot of fun with the character of Ichabod Crane.
Yeah.
I loved his performance, Johnny Depp's performance.
This was like peak Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was before. He was obviously still working a lot with Tim Burton, but I feel like this was still early enough where it didn't feel.
This was their third collaboration.
Yeah.
So it would have been Edward Scissorhands and
Ed Wood. Yeah.
Ed Wood. Yeah, Ed Wood.
Yeah.
Which Martin Landau has that cameo at the beginning.
A lot of really good cameos in this movie. Martin Landau, what's his face? Christopher Lee. Mm-hmm. And then Christopher Walken.
Guys, we've got Saruman and Dumbledore in this movie.
Dude, I
Just
know.
like to
And
point that
Uncle
out.
Vernon.
Yes, and Uncle Vernon.
Yeah, Uncle Vernon, Darth Sidious. We have the Emperor Palpatine. Yeah. Oh, and
The
Alfred.
guy from Beetlejuice who plays the dad.
Jeffrey Jones. Yep.
He's not as. He's the one guy. I'm not gonna lie to you. He's the one guy that I don't buy being there.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking at him like
he's very.
you don't
out of
live in the
place.
1700s.
Yeah, he feels displaced.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, Jeffrey Jones was like arrested for like child porn. So maybe he does belong
so
in the
we
1700s.
He doesn't belong anywhere.
Did he really?
I think so.
Wow. Okay.
I had heard something about that, but I was afraid to open that bag because I was like, I don't know if I know
did not know
enough.
that. Yeah, be looking into that.
I'm not.
later.
I'll put that out into the world.
Yeah.
Wah, wah,
Later, JJ.
wah.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
But
so,
yes.
We didn't think you fit here
And
anyways.
then Johnny Depp, Fantastic Beasts.
And Christina Ricci, who played Wednesday Addams, who's now being played by Jenna Ortega, who's in
I love
Scream
Christina
5.
Ricci.
So now we have some Scream ties to this franchise. Or to this franchise, to this movie.
Christina Ricci made me believe. So Christina Ricci and I are both part of the Big Forehead Club. So when I was younger, this is stupid, but she really made me feel like I wasn't horribly ugly because of my forehead.
Oh.
That's not stupid, and you're not.
Well,
even
when I was
close
young,
to
I don't
even
care
a little
anymore.
ugly.
Whatever. I have a big fucking
Right.
forehead. Fuck you guys. But
Nobody said anything.
I know I'm not talking. I just mean in general. I don't care that I have
Yeah.
a big forehead anymore. But
Yeah.
when I was younger, it really bothered me.
Sure.
It made me really upset. But I was like, Christina Ricci's pretty. She got a big forehead. Look, she's famous. She got a big forehead. I can do things, right? I could be somebody.
I'm not like everybody says, like dumb. I'm smart and I deserve respect.
Who says that?
Fredo.
What?
The Godfather Part 2.
Oh my gosh, I haven't seen those movies in so long.
And Casey, it's not about forehead. It's about going forward.
Well,
That's
thank
right.
you.
Okay.
Thank
right.
you. I saw the
You're
wheels.
welcome.
I saw the wheels turning in yours while you were.
Well, there's two more things I need to mention before we move on.
Oh.
Danny, you were talking about the cinematography. This actually won
Yeah.
the Academy Award for Best Art Direction.
Oh,
And back to Andrew Walker, I just need to throw this in there. He also wrote the screenplay for Brain Scan.
Well, son of a biatch.
Do you guys ever see Brain Scan
I have not.
with Edward Furlong?
No, I haven't. But that's the one
Oh,
that's
Edward
about
Furlong.
the Headless Horseman. He scans your brain and then he cuts your head off.
Yes.
Or that's the sequel. He cuts your head off, takes your head, and is like, let's scan
And then he
some
scans
brains.
it. Yeah.
But it also has to take place in the future because Headless Horseman in space. Sorry.
The series that they did, I think on Fox a few years ago,
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Sleepy Hollow, is about time travel. So they take
Oh.
the characters from the past and bring them to the future.
Oh.
So, it's technically, not, but for the sake of this
Canon,
stupid
yeah.
bit, it's canon.
Yeah, for sure.
My mom really liked that show.
I never
Oh,
watched
really?
it.
Yeah.
It's cute. It was ahead of its time.
All day. I bet all of your notes
A little hollow, a little sleepy, but
in between every line, you've got something that has to do with head. Right? You've got a note that has a pun. Right, we'll
I
see.
try to fit head in as often as I can.
I'm sure you do.
So, yeah, it's appropriate here.
Okay. Well, before we get into more heads rolling, let's talk about some things that you guys watched this week.
Sure.
This is not what I watched, but I'm telling you anyway. I went to a haunted house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a scare house down here. So the last time I went to a haunted house was probably over 10 years ago when I lived when we were in Florida.
Mhm.
You know, all of us were there at the same time at one
Yeah,
point. But
we were. That's crazy.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Oh,
Danny,
yeah.
I met you.
Wait.
Anyway, so last time I went to a haunted house was probably in Florida, Halloween Horror Nights, which are really great, obviously amazing
Mhm.
haunted houses they have there. But this one down here is called Scare House, and it's pretty good. Pretty good.
Oh, yeah?
That's fun.
It takes a
Okay.
half an hour to get through,
Oh,
and and my brother and I went with a couple of our other friends, and it was so funny. My brother was in the front and I was right behind him, and it's so funny because we're going through, and Cody and I would talk to each other, we'd point at somebody and be like, that one right there is a real person, and then they would yell, and then we would yell, and it's we had just pointed out the fact that was a real human being and they were getting ready to scare us.
mhm.
And then they still scared us somehow.
You set yourselves up too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it
it
was
was
too much preparation.
it was really cool. There was a room full of mirrors that was super confusing. We couldn't find our way
Oh,
out of.
fuck
I
that.
like those.
At one point we had to
Yeah, I don't like
crawl underneath things.
No.
Oh yeah.
God.
I
Yeah,
don't
it was
like
really
this.
good. It was really good. I got scared. So we did that, and that was fun. And I didn't mean to, but I watched all of the new Dahmer series on Netflix.
How is it?
It's-
I've heard there have been a lot of reactions about whether or not like this show should even exist.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, what? Just because of how disgusting it is? I mean,
Well, because of the victims' families and having.
Yeah.
yeah, I can understand that. Of course.
Oh, and I'm not going to judge you if you enjoyed it. I feel like
I did enjoy it.
I don't
mean,
believe
that's
in
like,
censorship whatsoever. Like
that's right up my alley, you know.
Mhm.
I don't. I understand how the victims' families would feel about it, you know, but that's with anything that comes with true crime. To be honest with you,
course.
you know what I mean.
Sure.
But yeah, I thought it was really good. A lot of it was really accurate. They changed a couple of things for the sake of storytelling. I think he had 9 years in between his first and second victims. It's like in between those times, they kind of made him seem a little more
like fill in the
gap,
like, so to speak.
Kind of.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But yeah, it was really good. It was.
And how is Evan Peters in the role?
He's amazing.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
I figured that would be a given.
Yeah,
he's really good.
I feel like he's probably gonna need a lot of therapy.
I was gonna say the characters that I mean, there are other actors who do this, but like just the fact that we're on him for this topic, he plays so many twisted characters that I wonder what his process must be like to sort of like disconnect from that.
I don't know. He's in all the American Horror Stories.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of all of those characters.
Yeah.
I mean, literally season 1, he's a character. I mean, well, I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah. And then in like the political one, he kind of played like a cult leader type, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, he was really good. All of the acting is really good. Niecy Nash is in it, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't think I've ever seen her in a serious role before.
Mm-hmm.
But holy crap, she was great. And then I can't think of the man's name. He's the dad from Step Brothers.
Richard Jenkins.
He plays Lionel Dahmer, Jeffrey Dahmer's dad.
Wow. And now, was he in real life? Was he innocent, quote unquote, innocent, or was he? Did he have anything to do with the killings?
No, it was just Jeff.
Okay.
But a big part of it was like, you know, his child. It went back and showed like his childhood and stuff like that, and his relationship with his parents and that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So that's the part about it that was really neat, was that they showed all of that kind of stuff, and then they also showed there were a couple of episodes that were all about the victims' families, and about how they suffered and how they were looking for their son and stuff like that.
God, that's so sad.
Yeah, it's really the whole
what a
thing is very
monster.
sad.
Damn.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever watch it, but I'm glad that we have you here to sort of relay this information to us.
Yeah, it was very good, but yeah, very heavy, very sad.
Okay.
Yeah.
What'd you watch, Danny?
So the other night, Cody and I went to a screening at Alamo Drafthouse of the movie Clue.
Oh,
And
that's fun.
I didn't realize it. Yeah, I didn't know it was going to be like an event.
Oh.
So before every Alamo Drafthouse movie, they have this thing that comes on the screen where it's like, absolutely no talking. This is now officially a quiet zone. And like they do this whole thing. It's like, really, like if you talk, we'll kick you out. But in this one, it like we're sitting there watching, and we have like props on our table. Like it was like cute, but we still didn't know. And then it says, this theater is now officially, and then I forgot what the phrase, and I'm sure I could have just Googled it, but it was like a party zone. And I was like, wait, what?
So it was like a Rocky
you
Horror
can
thing.
talk and sing. Yeah. And then
Nice.
like a guy
that's
came up
cool.
on stage and was like introducing it. And he was like, all right, guys, you know, like feel free to like, you know, talk. And like everyone got a fake, like when you get to your seat, you get a fake little like foam weapon, like really cheap. So every time a weapon was on screen, everyone with it would like wave it in the air. And
that's so fun.
It was so much fun. And Cody had never seen Clue before he met me. And everyone loves Clue.
Yeah.
But he didn't realize like kind of like the impact that it had on people. And he had to learn to appreciate it. So he really liked it, which is why he went. And then I think he saw it in a new light of like, oh, wow, this is like a cultural thing. Like
Yeah, of
people
course.
are obsessed with this movie. So he got a kick out of that.
She's like,
So yeah,
she's
we
like,
did Clue.
Flames, flames
Yeah.
burning.
Oh, when that so the guy who did like who was sort of, I guess, I don't know if emceeing is really the correct term, but when the guy came up, like the host, he was talking about it, and he just was like, he said something to the extent of like, when so and so does the line reading, and everyone like lost their minds, and Cody's like, what's the line reading? And I'm like, the flames. He's like, I don't remember that. I was like, you'll see. So that throughout the movie, every time there was like a really big laugh, he was like, was that the line? I was like, no, we're not there yet. You'll I was like, you'll know, because the whole crowd like was just like yelling at the screen. And it was a hoot. It was great. What else? I also saw the movie Barbarian, which we had all been talking about. Fun, very unexpected. I saw it with a group. My friend Jimmy and his partner came to visit, so we all saw it, and I think they were all like a little surprised by like where the movie goes. And I won't say anything. I won't spoil it. But that was fun. I did get to see one older movie that I had always wanted to see, and I'm so glad I finally sat through it, was the movie Cat People.
Okay. Are you talking about like the 1940s?
Yes.
People? Okay. Because I think they made one in like the 90s, I think.
Yeah. This was the OG.
Okay.
You know, I feel like there's this sort of expectation when you watch an older movie that you feel like it's going to seem dated, and like that's obvious with like just the look of it, but it felt very modern, and like the sort of like themes that they were playing with, you know, with like the sexuality and just like the dynamics between men and women, which I thought was really fascinating. And then how they sort of like lean into the horror without kind of overshadowing the message. So if you have a chance to watch Cat People, I really recommend it. I think a lot of movies especially from the 40s, are kind of automatically a slower burn. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure there's an exception, but yeah, a lot of fun.
And then you just saw Barbarian. I liked how they played with the roles of men and women and perception of the world of men and women in Barbarian. That was good. It didn't feel
I didn't
like,
think of that parallel. Yeah.
It didn't feel forced or anything. It just felt natural in the movie. And I really liked that.
The fun thing about Barbarian is that's one of those movies where you go back and you think of like every little scene and detail and interaction, and you realize like how deliberate it all was to the plot.
I love those movies.
Nina couldn't go to the theater with me, but I came home right after seeing Barbarian and just like laid out the whole movie, like scene for scene. I was like, and then this happens, and then this, you know, like it wasn't like a summary. Like I told her like the whole movie.
Well, she should have just gone with you.
You just stopped talking. She's like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, there's a dramatic pause here. So
yeah,
I'm staying true to the movie. So yeah, that's what I watched.
Okay. I went and saw Pearl. I know we're a couple weeks. It's
No, I wanted to go so bad, but I was like, like I said, I legitimately did not mean to watch that whole series. It just happened.
Wait, so like after all that we talked about Pearl during X, you guys didn't go see it yet?
No, sir.
What the fuck? Very different than X. Very different than X.
Yeah.
It was a movie that when there's some really good moments in it, and just like Mia Goth's acting is just so incredible. And there's one scene that you just like can't take your eyes off the screen. It's just magnificent. But it was one that like I got out of the theater and I was like, and Nina saw it with me and we were just like, okay, it was there. But then like, just like thinking about it more and more and more, and it just got better and better and better the more I thought about it. And so that was good. But
that's what happened with Danny and X. Remember, he didn't realize how much he liked it until we were doing the show.
That's right. But just don't go into it thinking it's going to be like X, because it's like a completely different kind of movie.
Right.
I feel like I'm going to really enjoy it. I know that's like
I think you will. I think
recipe for failure sometimes for expectations, but yeah.
But the next movie I watched I will tell you, Danny, you will hate it, and Casey, you will love it.
What is
hear
it?
It's new on Shudder. It's called Speak No Evil.
Okay.
Have you guys heard of this?
Nope.
I have. I've seen it. I've seen the poster pop up on Twitter.
Really good movie. It's a slow burn, but it's really well done. But then I won't give anything away, but I will just say it is a on point Casey ending.
Sweet.
100% Casey ending.
Means it's fucked up.
I was like pissed because I was like, why did I just waste 2 hours for this? But then, like, I really
That's
didn't
what
waste it because
Casey asks herself for every other movie
yeah,
when it ends happily.
but like, I don't really like to say that because either it's good or bad. Like, it's still an experience, whatever. But
Yeah.
I did enjoy the whole movie up until a certain point.
Yeah.
So like, I didn't waste my time. It was very well made. It was a very good movie, just a very bleak kind of ending, which I don't really care for. So, but that's just a personal opinion.
While I was watching Dahmer, there's a part where he's like in prison and he's talking to a priest, and he says to the priest that he usually sided with the villains in movies and stuff, and I was like, shit.
Casey, are you trying to tell us something?
No, I don't even like killing bugs.
It's good.
No, that's what she
That's good.
says.
I feel bad. No, I really don't. I feel bad. Well, we had a spider infestation in our basement, and I had to do it, but I really felt guilty about it, but I had to. It's like,
Yeah.
Casey's like, I will not even kill a bug, but she's like, kills another human, drags them down, like feeds them to the spiders. Like, they must eat.
well,
Feed my children.
no. But I think that's part of what I find that kind of stuff so intriguing is because I don't believe in fighting in general. I mean, I'll have arguments and get pissy and shit like that, but
Sure.
I've never gotten to the point where I wanted to punch somebody because I don't understand
Yeah.
physical violence. You know what I mean? So it's so crazy to me that people are capable of doing this and then somehow living with themselves afterwards. It's fucking crazy. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Well, are you guys ready to meet our monster?
Yeah, let's meet the Headless Horseman. Hussein.
do it.
What do they call him? Hussein?
His name's Bob, actually, before
No,
Hessian.
no.
He's
Robert.
a Hessian trooper.
Bob the Hessian soldier.
They call him the Hessian at some point, yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
that just means
Call him Hesse. Hesse.
Yeah, a Hessian trooper was a German who fought for the British in the Revolutionary War.
Okay.
Interesting. And I'm sure, this is obviously, the legend of Sleepy Hollow is, just a classic American tale. So obviously a lot of people are familiar with the source material from Washington Irving and even the animated series from Disney.
Fievel Goes West.
Mm-hmm. Fievel Goes West.
Wait. What?
He said an American tale, so I said Fievel Goes
Oh,
West.
okay. Yeah, so an American Tale is the first one. Fievel Goes West is the second one.
Yes. And then Sleepy Hollow is the third one.
Yes.
But I grew up not knowing that American Tale existed.
Nope. I don't think that anybody grew up thinking that American Tale existed. I'm serious. Fievel Goes West was the only Fievel movie that existed.
Same.
It wasn't until my early 20s that I knew Fievel was from Russia.
Oh, shit.
And they are immigrants.
Same. I had the stuffed animal for Fievel, and I just associated it with Fievel Goes West.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was like,
Fucking
I didn't
weird.
know he was East. No one had set that up.
When was he?
Yeah, there was no what.
Oh, man.
The title was a choice. Now it makes sense.
Yes. Okay.
But no, I was just going to mention that. It obviously goes without saying, if anyone who's familiar with the original story, which I'm sure a lot of people are, this movie takes a lot of creative liberties.
Yes. Yeah.
Even though we do have a lot of these sort of central characters are the same. We have Ichabod, but he was a school teacher. Now he's a
Constable.
constable. Thank you.
Constable Crane.
And a lot of the fates are different, which I'm sure we'll touch on later. But I just kind of wanted to set that up
Yeah.
out of the gate. As
It's
were.
interesting because I don't remember the original one, watching it at all. I can still see exactly what he looks like, though, as a cartoon in my head.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember anything else about it.
They still pull from little things where he's a coward, but he's not as much of a coward in this one.
Oh, really? Because he does
It's-
a lot of very cowardly things in this.
And again, I may not be as familiar with the actual source material than I am with the Disney movie.
Oh.
But in the Disney movie, he's sort of a little cocky, and you kind of want him to get his due by the end. But then when he's faced with real horror, he's terrified. He's not as brave as he lets on. Whereas in this one, it's sort of like, it's more of a journey of like, okay, every time I deal with something, I pass out. So I need to be, I need to overcome that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's meet these characters from Sleepy Hollow.
Let's meet
Are you guys
them.
ready to meet the monster?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's nice to meet you. Just silence. He did.
Yeah,
Headless
can't-
Horseman
yeah, he
doesn't have
can't
a
talk,
mouth.
yeah.
He can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Crickets.
nodding, but you can't see it.
Like, is he nodding?
But you can
or
put
is
your
he
hand out. He can shake your hand.
bowing?
Oh, but
Oh,
would
yeah.
he even see? He has to be. He has to be able to see somehow.
I mean, he can sense. He has that supernatural connection.
Yeah.
He's very accurate. He's got to see something.
He
That's
is
true.
He's
That's
very
true.
Yeah. Is he accurate because he's being, spoiler alert, is being sort of like supernaturally summoned to and guided to kill certain people? No,
Yeah.
because I guess he's sword fighting with Brahm.
Or is he like Kevin Costner in The Bodyguard, where he like closes his eyes so he can hear better?
Yes. With his ears that he doesn't have.
Yeah. I think that just because he's supernatural, so like think about
He's like Spider-Man. It's like his spider senses.
think about a ghost,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
We can't see them, but they can still see us.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
What if ghosts can't see us? What if they're there, but like they keep bumping and like, oh god.
That's why they're like knocking books off the shelves and stuff
Yeah.
because they can't see.
that actually makes sense?
What if ghosts are as scared of us as we are of them? They're like, what the hell is that? Like
Danny.
they lose all memory of the living and they're just,
That would actually
Yeah.
be amazing.
you know, if we can take one cue from our main character in this movie, is just you got to be brave.
Got to be brave.
Confront your fears.
Okay, we're going to Sleepy Hollow. So Nina plugged in this air freshener
Yeah.
yesterday that's like apple, cinnamon, something that smells so good. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I'm going to watch Sleepy Hollow tonight and it's going to be cozy and I'm going to smell it. And then she decided to cook pinto beans with bacon. And the
That's
whole
funny.
house stunk.
That's
it
funny.
stunk so bad. And so I'm like sitting
Oh,
there
that's
watching
funny.
Sleepy Hollow and like the lights are on and the house smells like beans.
I don't even
And I'm
care
just
about
like,
the vibe anymore.
Fuck.
Oh man.
Well, no wonder you weren't as into the movie as we hoped you would be.
Well, the smell went down a little bit. I turned the lights off. Got
Okay.
a little better.
Okay.
I liked the movie. I really did. I just didn't love it.
Yeah.
But I did
Gotcha.
really enjoy it. So the Headless Horseman from
Yes.
The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, he was based on Irish folklore.
Oh.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He's known as the Doulahan. And he
Okay.
seems a little bit cooler than the Headless Horseman that we know. He rides a black horse. He's got no head. He carries his head, right? So it's a little bit different. His head has like a big grin on it from like ear
Oh.
to ear.
Okay.
And it's like all like moldy and gross.
Yeah.
And he has a whip that he carries with him that is the spinal column of a human being,
Okay.
which is
fun.
pretty sweet.
Okay.
And sometimes he rides a carriage. He drives a carriage, which is
That's
made
right.
from bones and things. And it's got like a canopy of dried human skin.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
And
That is really
like
cool.
when he stops riding, he will shout someone's name or say someone's name and they will die instantly.
Oh, so he okay.
Leslie. Steve. Not the effect with the more modern names.
So
Oh my God.
what I will say is that part is not as cool.
Oh, right.
Right,
But I
like-
thought the spinal column whip was pretty cool.
No, that is really cool. I
Yeah,
like
and the
visual
carriage and
a
stuff,
lot.
like he literally
Yeah.
could, like, that would be a cool fucking Uber to get into, don't you think?
Mhm.
But like, the fact that he just shouts people's names, but does he shout from his dead head or from his neck?
I don't know. That's a good question that I'm not sure of.
Huh.
He thinks he's shouting it, but it's just like gurgles from like his like.
But the Headless Horseman that we are familiar with comes from, of course, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow,
Yes.
written by Washington Irving in 1820. I didn't even know they fucking wrote books in 1820.
Yeah.
Just-
I don't
Yes.
think they did write books. They told stories.
They drew pictures.
Audibly.
Was it an actual like book, or I mean, it was probably just a short story?
It was a short story from a bigger book.
Okay.
Yes.
Actually.
And it was about a Hessian soldier, trooper, and he was killed during the Battle of White Plains, but not how he's killed in the movie version. In the book, he is killed with a cannonball to the head.
Oh.
Right? And so
Ooh.
his skull is like left shattered on the battlefield while his other soldiers like carry his body away off the battlefield. And so that's how he lost his head. So he comes back in search of his head. And sometimes in the story and sometimes in the lore of the Headless Horseman, he will be wearing a jack-o'-lantern in place of his head.
Oh. Well,
do you know if
I
that was
wonder-
in the book?
That I don't know. That I'm not sure.
That was probably where the jack-o'-lantern thing comes in the movie, though.
Well, so in the original book, Ichabod is a school teacher, like you mentioned, Danny, and he already believes in like superstition and all that stuff. He's very like all for it, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
He wants to marry Katrina just to get rich, just to get their family's wealth.
Ichabod.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so
Or like
one
Ichabod.
night they're like at a party and he's like gonna like ask her to marry him or something, but she like doesn't have it. So Brahm, who's like the other dude in this story, he wants Katrina as well. So they have like this scuffle, right?
Like bro out.
So Ichabod leaves, and on his way home, he is chased by a headless figure, right? And he throws a jack-o'-lantern at Ichabod. And then the next morning, his Ichabod's like horses around, and there's broken pieces of pumpkin everywhere, and Ichabod is no longer to be seen. And nobody knows where he went. But oddly enough, Brahm kind of like knows what happened to him that night. So people think like, was it Brahm in his costume or was it something else? But then that's the end of Ichabod. Like that's it. He's done.
So it's more open-ended.
Definitely different
Wait.
than,
What?
yeah.
Oh, so Ichabod's not the savior.
So he's kind of the villain.
No.
Oh.
Brahm's kind of the hero.
Well, or is he,
Or is he just as bad?
or was he the one that threw the fucking pumpkin at Ichabod?
Right. Right.
But if this like kind of squirmy, goofy little dude came in trying to take advantage of someone for their money,
Yeah.
I'm kind of like all for the locals trying to scare him out.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah.
So that's the original Legend of Sleepy Hollow story in a nutshell.
Okay.
So do we like the changes that they made with Ichabod's
I do.
character, making him a
Yeah.
detective
I do.
constable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love like his little gadgets.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I love it.
Every time I go to the optometrist, I feel like him. I'm like, oh yes. I'm Ichabod
I
from
feel like-
Sleepy Hollow.
I feel like this movie is like the best marriage of function and like creative quirkiness from Tim Burton's imagination, where like a lot of it actually kind of like fits sort of like his aesthetic, which I think is why this movie works really well, which I enjoy it so much.
This movie and Sweeney Todd are so similar. Like, it's so similar the whole time. I'm just like this. Like it looks exact. They look like the same movie. All the
Very
colors
much.
are exactly the same. The Sweeney Todd isn't as much as of a like buffoon, but it's like, yeah.
I think I prefer Sleepy Hollow more only because, we were talking earlier about like bleak endings.
Oh, I love the ending to Sweeney Todd.
That makes sense.
I love it. It is so good.
So Sweeney Todd and Sleepy Hollow share a similar aesthetic, is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very similar. Like
much
all of
so.
the dull colors, and then the only color that's really bright is the red blood.
I was gonna say the blood is very much like almost the same.
Yeah, it is because it almost looks waxy.
The blood in this, the blood in this movie, like I was not expecting it.
Yeah.
When what's the first one? It squirts on him
when he's doing the autopsy.
Yeah, it must
the
be.
widow?
Yeah,
When he opens up the slit.
Yeah,
and it squirts the blood like on his glasses.
Yeah,
and then the next thing he comes out and he's covered in blood.
Yeah,
but that was so funny because he was like, he was so excited to finally get a dead body to cut up, and then like he wasn't really sure what to do.
Yeah.
This movie does a great job of sort of undercutting the tragedies with humor in a way that I feel like is easy to fuck up, and they do it really well in this one. Even when the Masbeth dad dies, and the guy, the guy comes on the horse and he's like, murder, like the horseman strikes again, and then you're like, oh shit, like this is about to get serious, and then you just see Ichabod like trying to get onto his horse gunpowder.
Oh,
Just like it's just very like corny, but it kind of works perfectly.
Yeah.
One part that I laughed really hard at, and I've seen this movie several times, but I never thought about it until yesterday, and it might not have been intentional at all. But the part where they go to like that burned down cottage and she's like playing by the fireplace or whatever, and there's no walls, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But she says something and then he sighs really heavily, and then he like walks over to where the window is, and it's like he's looking out the window like clearing his head, and there's no walls around him at all. So it was like I laughed really hard, and I was like, I don't know if they did that on purpose, but if they did, it's fucking great.
Well, that's when he saw her drawing in the in the ashes, just like his dreams or memories or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought those flashbacks were pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's another example of like Tim Burton's, like clearly he's interested in like witches and gothic, visuals and that stuff. And I feel like everything here again just kind of it works so seamlessly. He gets away with doing the supernatural, the witches, the old, spooky Halloween aesthetics, the period piece, the black clothes, like all of it just works. Oh, one thing I did want to mention really quickly, because we were talking about cinematography earlier and then blood. Did you know that if you've noticed in this movie, the palette of the movie it almost looks like sepia tone, but not quite. It's not really black and white, but it just feels so muted of color.
It's dull.
But then but then the blood is so red. When they shot it, the blood that they used on set was actually more blue. So that by the time that they put the filters on so that's how intense the coloring system and the color grading was on this movie.
That's fun.
Which I always thought was fascinating. Because that's like science, like getting it to be that perfect, like luckily you're Tim Burton where you can kind of get away with being, if the blood is too red, it's like, that's okay.
Yeah. It's so vibrant.
Yeah.
It almost looks like paint.
Yep.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It doesn't want you
really
to buy
viscous.
into it being real. It's just like,
yeah,
it's more about the effect.
Yeah.
That's the red blood cells talking.
I also thought that in this movie, it was kind of funny that in the beginning, like when the people are getting beheaded, there's not a lot of blood. And most of the blood from the like first half of the movie comes from when he does that autopsy.
Yeah.
And then most of the blood happens again when he's chopping at the tree and all the blood is spraying out on him.
Oh, dude. That was gross.
Yeah. I love that whole
one of
tree
the
thing.
grossest scenes I've ever seen.
It's great.
And
I love
the heads got me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yep.
I love that it's like a portal to hell.
The flushing, and just the flushiness of the tree. It's just everything's a little off. In
and the
whole sequence.
The the roots were like veins, like they were hollow and filled with blood. You know what I mean? It was very cool.
Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah. Oh.
What is the purpose of the cardinal? What's the meaning behind the cardinal?
Well, I don't know how it pertains to this movie, but in general, it's when you see a cardinal, it's like somebody a loved one who's passed away is around.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, just in a lot of Tim Burton movies, he does that very sort of, and I don't mean this as like a jibe at all. It's very like kind of on the nose visual and theme of being trapped in the cage of that, that person who wants to get out. In Corpse Bride, there's a very similar scene in the beginning, kind of like where Ichabod, literally lets the bird fly out. Victor does the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like he doesn't like the characters being trapped or confined.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Katrina even says that too. She's like, I've always wanted to tame one, but I never had the heart to cage one.
Right.
And maybe in this movie, it is just as simple as his mom.
Mm-hmm. But then at the end, even Katrina, she thinks she's very safe in this town, like in this sort of this beautiful house that her father has in this lifestyle that he kind of cultivated for her, but then realizes like, no, even here, you're actually in danger. And then by the end, spoiler alert, they go out into the city, which is, I feel like you think of like New York City feels like a danger zone, but actually that's her kind of being released from that cage. It's like she can decide for herself what sort of dangers she invites into her world.
That's good insight, Danny.
It is.
For sure.
So one of my favorite little titty
Titty bits. Little titty bit. A little bit of titty.
What?
I'm sorry. Yes, tidbits is what I meant to say, but for some reason I kept stuttering and saying titty instead. So one of my favorite little things that happens in this movie that's very small but very effective, I think, is I think it's right before he kills the man that's in the watchtower. I don't remember what his name is.
Masbeth.
Oh yeah, it is Masbeth. The fog puts out the torches.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that part.
That was cool.
I noticed that earlier when Ichabod first shows up in Sleepy Hollow. All the fog must have been, digital, because you can. It's just. I mean, that one is specifically very, off, but it's just a little curated, I guess.
Yeah,
to sort of look, very creepy.
Like it's got a mind somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When he walks in to town, why is everyone like shutting their windows?
They don't like outsiders.
Why?
Because they're a town full of bastards.
Yeah, maybe they're wondering, like, because I guess the idea of the Headless Horseman is kind of a mystery. So it's like, what kind of shit is this guy gonna bring?
Yeah.
Is he
Exactly.
involved? Is he? But yeah, no, that's a good question though. I mean, in their eyes, he might be the monster.
Yeah.
The city folk coming in.
Well, no, I guess not. I was going to say, remember, a lot of people were involved in it too, but I guess they weren't just regular, like,
Yeah, it was just like the four guys.
Yeah.
And
because at the end of the day, like the plot is all about sort of like class, like in hierarchy and in, people sort
this
of like.
This movie's about classism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was just trying to think, I was like, it would be interesting to get the perspective of the locals, but I guess we do sort of get that with young Masbeth, who is kind of like the sort of central, he's not quite lower class, but he's just sort of.
No.
yeah, because his
central
dad
level
worked for
spectating.
the main dude,
Van Garrett or Van Tassel,
Garrett. Van Tassel. Van Garrett got killed at the beginning.
It's yeah.
Then
Yeah.
Van Morrison comes in later.
Through the door.
Through the doors. Van Morrison invites his brother Jim through the door.
Yeah.
The double set of doors.
Yeah.
I had a very personal connection to a scene here with involving Ichabod Crane and a spider.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I used to have lizards, right? when I was a kid. I had like Indian geckos,
Oh.
and we had to feed them crickets. And
I saved a cricket today.
my mom hated it. And we would have to go to the pet store and like take our little plastic container and get like so many crickets. And the guy would just like fill it up. And it was really gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one time, Mom, if you're listening, I know you're laughing right now. One time we were in the kitchen and we had just got back from the pet store, and I had the plastic box full of crickets that I was about to go feed to the lizard, and the cap came off and the whole thing fell and crickets went all over the kitchen.
Oh my gosh.
And I jumped on the counter and screamed.
Over crickets.
And my mom, who I thought was going to freak out, just stood there and just laughed and laughed because
My
I
God,
jumped on the
that's so
counter and
funny.
screamed and just let crickets go everywhere. There was crickets in our kitchen for like, I don't know, a couple weeks.
Yeah,
you know,
what do
you go
you
like under
do?
the refrigerator and it's like you
God.
hear them and it's like, what are you
Yeah.
going to do?
That's so funny.
They're so cute. Crickets are so cute.
Yeah. So when Ichabod jumped on the chair when the spider, although I may have gotten over my fear of crickets. I'm not scared of crickets anymore. But if there was a spider that big in the house, I would jump on
Oh.
a chair too.
I think that almost anybody, even people that aren't afraid, I'm not afraid of spiders, but I would jump if I saw a fucking tarantula in my kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah, too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too much.
Ugh.
Well, let's talk about the first time that we actually meet our monster, the Headless Horseman.
Okay.
It's right after, or it's actually kind of like within the opening credit sequence, because we sort of
Yeah.
get the opening and then it stops, and then we get it like 7.5 minutes into the movie
Mhm.
when Ichabod's going up to Sleepy Hollow.
Right. Yeah, we get a really brief. I wouldn't even call it a glimpse as he rides by the carriage with Van Garrett,
With Martin Lando's little cameo.
and then he cuts off the head of the driver.
Dirk.
He had a name.
That was Dirk.
That was Dirk.
Who's
son.
Dirk?
So that was his son.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dirk Van Garrett.
Which it's just funny because I was wondering, I was like, when does the horseman kill Van Garrett's son? Because the whole fucking thing is like, you know, young Mazbeth mentions that there was a quarrel between father and son. I was like, well, where's the son?
Yep. He was,
there
he
it
was,
is.
he was, he was gone.
okay. Okay.
Interesting.
I only know that because I watch it on Amazon, and when I pause it, it tells me all of the people on the screen.
Do you pause it every time a
See,
new
that's
character is
so
introduced?
good.
Maybe.
That's kind of genius, Casey.
I do.
That's smart, especially for this podcast or like any podcast where you have to like refer back to someone or something.
It definitely has
smart.
helped me.
I should start doing that. Okay, so that makes so much sense. So yeah, we get the two. There's a very complex sort of plot that is sort of fueling the villain and the true monster that we meet later on.
Right.
Right.
Right. Because he's the monster for monster's sake, if you will.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But he's definitely being directed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pawn.
Yeah.
He is
Yes,
he's
the pawn.
straight up like he was a horrible person in his
Yeah.
when he was alive before he got his head chopped off. But he is definitely a pawn for the true mastermind of the movie. But yeah, you do get a lot of one thing that I really love about this movie is I thought they do a great job of sort of establishing kind of context and little clues and backstory for what's going to happen, or kind of setting things up in really quick ways. Like, you know, in the opening, we get the signing of whatchamacallit, with the will or whatever. And obviously we don't know what it is pertaining to at the time, but they give us everything. Even, you know, they just get right to the point. And I thought they did a great job of kind of giving you all the little bits and pieces that you'll ultimately need when the big reveal comes later on, when the villain kind of reveals their true identity.
Right. Yeah. Like you even get, was it Jonathan?
Yeah.
Mazbeth.
Yeah.
Mazbeth, who
Yep.
like you get him signing and like you don't know it at the time, but like that's going to
Yeah.
come back and I love, oh my God, we were talking about the blood earlier, and like those drips the whole time, and you think it's blood, and then it turns out to be that candle wax, and I was like,
Yep.
Oh, that's just awesome.
It's so good.
Love it.
It's so good. And even that, you get the seal, the Van Garrett seal. So it's just like little, with the windmill, it's just, there's these little subtle setups that are actually tie into the plot and the action later, which are really effective. But even like when you said, like when Mazbeth signs, even like the fact that his signature isn't quite as, fancy, or, it shows like, okay, this person's not as educated maybe as the other person. So we're getting that sort of, we were kind of joking about classism, but it really is a part of the story. And you get like a little taste of that right away, just in that opening, those few opening shots right before we meet our monster.
Yeah. And that those first few kills there in I guess the second one takes place in that cornfield, and you get the scarecrow and everything. And that was just an awesome atmosphere to be in. Good.
Yes. It is very much a fall vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. This whole movie is a vibe.
The vibe. It is a vibe.
Sure.
Yep. It like smells like fall. Like
it does.
I know for Zach, it smells like beans and bacon for you.
Yes. but it did, and it feels
the rest of us.
It feels cold and crispy. It's so weird how
when
that
Ichabod
happens.
shows up and in Sleepy Hollow, and he goes to the party at the Van Tassel's house. I've never wanted to go to a party more than that. Like, I'm so jealous of him. I'm jealous of anyone who was on set during that day. Just being there. Oh, it's so,
even you're so talking about like the classism and like everything. He walks into town and everything, like they're shutting their windows and it's all bleak and everything. And then when he opens those doors, it's like colorful,
warm, and it's warm so magical, and you kind of are sort of, Tim Burton does this. He does a great job of sort of sometimes literally transporting characters into different worlds. And I like how in this one, he does it in a way that's like, based on your wealth. It's like, if you can afford this other world, then you can afford to sort of indulge in basically what feels like a fantasy space. And in some cases is, because it's all sort of an illusion. They're all sort of living this lie because they all end up paying the ultimate price for this like lifestyle that they kind of tried really hard to get, but then like fucked everyone else over just to get there. So yeah, I really like this movie a lot. I do think it might be my favorite of Tim Burton's.
Mine's Beetlejuice.
I like this and Big Fish probably the most.
I do love Big Fish.
It's so good.
Big Fish is one of the Tim Burton movies that I forget is a Tim Burton movie.
Not one out of the two of you, not one mentioned Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Pee-wee. Yeah.
Oh God, I forgot.
There is kind of a Pee-wee's Big Adventure nod in this movie when fast forward.
Large Marge?
Yeah, Large Marge, when he goes to see the witch. And the big jump scare. Like, that's straight up just like a direct reference.
Honestly, with having Kevin Yeager and all of the amazing effects that were in this movie, I forgot how disappointing that part was.
It was a little weird that like the effects were so good, and then they put in
and then they chose to do that.
Yeah.
But aside from like her eyes and her tongue popping out, even her face was CG. Like after that, what I mean?
Yeah, you do wonder like how creepy and grotesque it could have looked if they went practical.
Yeah, but I mean, if that's the one thing I have to complain about in this movie,
yeah. But you guys, I talk about Pee-wee and it's great, but I absolutely adore Big Fish. That is that is such a good movie.
Yeah,
it's like it's just the relationship between the son and the dad, and it's just like. Gets you right in the feels.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love how by the time Tim Burton made Big Fish, he's obviously like so sort of aware of how aware people are of his style, and how often he'll sort of like, he can get away with it because it's literally about telling fantasies and stories.
Yeah.
Where like he'll constantly like kind of push the boundary and the limit of like his fantasy, and then the second you go really deep into it, he like undercuts it by like pulling you back into reality. And I don't know, I just feel like that takes such a confident filmmaker to be so self-aware, and then to sort of kind of like play into that subversion of like, oh, you think you're getting like quote unquote what you think is Tim Burton, but I'm going to show you this other side of me to sort of actually ultimately highlight those other elements. And I just thought, that's what I love about that movie so much.
I love the direction this movie goes. I did not expect it to kind of take the direction it did, where it's like not so much about the Headless Horseman later on. I mean, it is, but there's that kind of whole like that plot that's unfolding, and you get the
it's like it's a classic whodunit, and he's like
yeah.
I
thought that was cool. I wasn't expecting
that scene where he's like crawling around on the floor and putting all the things together and stuff. It was like 1700s version of like Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. That classic picture of him like freaking out. That's great. What I thought of.
Well, in a weird way, it's the Headless Horseman, even though it's literally, the movie's called Sleepy Hollow and it's about the Headless Horseman, he's almost kind of like, I mean, more active, but he is sort of like an active MacGuffin in his own movie, because it's really not about the Horseman. The Horseman's just being used to sort of serve.
He's a patsy.
A separate plot. Yeah,
he's a patsy.
Yeah, no, I agree, Zach, because it is sort of like basically the plot of the movie could still work without the Horseman. Okay, spoiler alert, the villain of the movie is Lady Van Tassel. She technically could have figured out how to off all these people without supernatural help.
Yeah,
so
but
in a way, it is sort of, I mean, it helps. It's very convenient.
Yeah.
But it is funny to think that like it would still exist without him. It could exist without him.
Man, is the Headless Horseman useless?
Oh no, he's very useful. Zach,
useful,
did you remember any of this?
Did I remember anything of this movie?
Like, did you remember that the woman was actually using him to kill, and that she was behind the whole thing? No. So what did you suspect?
I didn't remember anything except the visuals. Like, I knew how it looked, and I knew what the Headless Horseman looked like. I knew it was Christopher Walken who sharpened his teeth, but that was about it.
So how did you respond to it when you did find out like who the true villain was? Was it a shock?
Okay.
But before that, when he was trying to put the pieces together, were you following his lead, or did you think, I don't know, I think somebody else?
Well,
because originally he thought that it was Katrina's dad. Well, I don't know.
Boltus.
Okay, so then when Lady Van Tassel was quote unquote beheaded, even though she wasn't. You believe that and everything?
Well, that's okay. That's where it got me. So he sees her getting carried in with the cut on her hand, right? And the headless body's getting carried in, and he goes to examine it, whatever. And he's like, "Wait a second, this cut was made after the victim was dead."
Yeah.
And so I said, "Oh my God, she's a ghost." And then funny. she comes in and she's like talking to Katrina, and she's like, hey, guess what I did? I'm summoning the Horseman. And I was like, she's a ghost that controls him. Oh my God. And then they explained it all, and I was, oh wait, she's not
in your ghost. Defense though, I feel like that's okay to sort of have that. To think that, because even when she enters the room with Katrina, she almost walks in almost sort of like in a very
almost
weird,
like floats in.
She floats later in the movie. It shows her going outside and she's floating.
She doesn't have to explain like why she's there. So in that little like moment in between her death and the reveal, there is some unknown.
Yeah, and like you're in a movie where it's like the Headless Horseman is jumping out of a tree, and then you say someone was already dead, and it's not that far-fetched to think she's a ghost.
100%.
No, of course.
Yeah.
What I've learned in horror movies is that if they're showing everybody's death and they don't show somebody's death, that person is not dead.
Yeah.
Very good point.
That is one
Very
thing that
good
I've
point.
learned.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But there are moments where you do see a character die.
And it's still not really their death.
Yeah. Scream. Billy.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, the
Yes.
ending of this movie was a real drag.
Wait.
Why? Oh.
Because he was dragged on the
Yeah.
Thanks, Casey, for getting that.
Oh, I get it. It's so good.
Scared me. I
If
was
it-
like, okay, we need some more enthusiasm about this movie. because
Enthusiasm.
The finale is fantastic.
It
Yeah,
is
no.
good.
Yeah, the chase was great. The whole
Talk about a white knuckle thrill ride. High octane adventure.
what does Peter Travers from Rolling Stone say about this? And
It
I
was
liked
good.
that. I liked that the Headless Horseman could like get hurt. I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like it didn't stop
Yeah.
him, but he when he got shot and he fell off his horse.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I liked that.
I agree.
Okay. The church scene might have been my favorite.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, everything happens there.
That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's pretty intense.
Yep.
And you get those two guys, like everyone is like turning on each other, and he hits
Mm-hmm.
that guy with the big cross, and then he shoots the other guy, and then the fucking fence post through the chest.
Oh,
I
Yeah,
didn't see
that's-
that coming. I saw
yeah.
him like get the fence post and like tie it on the rope, but like I didn't know what was
Like, where is
gonna
this going?
really
Well, yeah,
happen.
that's not his MO.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't think he's it's so cool.
And then he drags him out just to get
Oh,
his
yeah,
head,
right in
get
between
his
the fence.
head just past the
Oh,
fence so he
it's
can
so
go cut
good.
it off.
Yeah, it's so good.
because isn't every conspirator who's involved in the whole plot is killed in that scene? Well, I guess we lost the magistrate earlier, Uncle Vernon,
Phillips.
so he
yeah.
doesn't count. But everyone
Mhm.
else,
Uncle
Jeffrey
Vernon.
Jones, Emperor Palpatine, Dumbledore. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the drunk
Oh,
Oh, he's
hangs
like the
himself,
notary. He's like the
yeah,
Yes,
the
notary Hardenbrook. Yeah.
Yes.
But how about that visual in the church right after she like faints and it's going over and it's so perfectly framed and symmetrical and
It's
just
so good.
great. And you see all the dead bodies laying there, and
Mhm.
she's not dead, but okay. Question.
Yes.
Ichabod finds her banging in the woods with Beetlejuice, right?
Yes.
Jeffrey Jones.
Yep.
Why did she cut her hand?
Well, she's into some witchy shit.
So
Yeah, but like, what's the?
I think it's supposed to be. I think there's two things. I think she's playing it off as like kinky because clearly he's like into it. He's like licking her hand. So I think it's like it's kind of like advantageous
Sorry,
for her.
no kink shaming.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
You don't have to like the kink to.
That's true. And then so then maybe it was like she knew what her plan was.
Yeah.
100%.
She knew she was going to cut the hand of somebody else
Yeah.
so that it okay.
And maybe she
Gotcha.
needed someone to see. Oh, yeah. But I guess she didn't need to do it there. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but I mean, her Baltus did see her hand too.
That's
You know what I
true.
mean? So it wouldn't have mattered where she cut it.
Yeah, that's
She
a good
showed him
point.
anyway.
Maybe she was just sort of like covering her all grounds just in case. You know, like if Beetlejuice says something, if she knows Ichabod's watching, if her husband
Yeah.
sees it in some other capacity. It's like my hand is cut.
Maybe it's weird because everything is so explained in this movie. So I was going to say that maybe there was some sort of ritualistic thing that she was doing that just wasn't uncovered. But
Well, it's funny because, we find out that Katrina is drawing that protection spell, right?
Yep.
Nina was sitting with me, and Nina is into witchcraft and all that. And so she saw that and she went away. Oh, her beans were done on the her beans were done on the
those
stove.
goddamn pinto beans
So she goes up to check them
stinking up my house.
and take them off the stove. And that's when he like looks in his spell book and finds out that it's a protection spell and not a like a cursed spell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Nina comes back and I was like, oh, so he just looked in his spell book, and she like kind of interrupted me. She's like, and he found out that it was a protection spell. And I'm like, yeah, And she's like, yeah, I know. I saw it. Like,
That's funny.
Yeah, I wasn't
saw
gonna
it
ruin
on
the movie
thing
for you,
and
dummy.
She knew what it was.
Oh, I appreciate the
funny.
fact that the design is like legit.
Accurate.
Yeah, accurate.
Yeah. Well, I guess like the evil eye is like a protection thing.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So that was kind of funny. I was like, oh yeah.
I like that.
Well, do you guys want to go over our favorite reveals of the Headless Horseman?
You know, Zach, I was thinking
Sure.
about that. I'd love to.
Good.
I'll go first. All right.
Go for
it. So my favorite reveal is actually the one where he comes out of the tree, because I just think it's fucking badass that there's like a portal to hell underneath this giant tree that he's got all these fucking heads in. And I think it's pretty cool that he goes in and out of there.
That is great.
Yeah.
That is
Because that's
great.
also when you learn that he's like actually coming from another fucking realm.
Yeah.
You know? So.
I think that wins. I had a different choice. I did my favorite reveal until you freaking reminded me how great that one is. Was Uncle Vernon's death. And I thought this one counted because it's the first time that Ichabod witnesses the horseman and realizes that like it's real. And I thought that whole setup was so fun and like kind of funny, but then disturbing. And you hit like all these really great tonal layers.
Yeah.
And just him coming out through the woods, and yeah, I thought that was fun.
Yeah. Mine is not like, okay, so the first time he comes out of the tree was great. That's probably like the best reveal.
Yeah.
My favorite reveal is not like a reveal to us because he's already out in the world at this point, but it's a reveal to Brahm. Nope, not Brahm. No, the other guy with the kid in the floorboards.
The Killian family.
Killian, yeah.
Yeah. And so when he busts through the door and just like
Yes.
breaks it down, and he comes in and he's got his two axes and they're like having like a fight.
Yeah.
That's the first moment where I was watching it and I was like, oh man, the Headless Horseman's like fucking awesome.
Yeah,
He's
he
brutal.
is.
And so just going through, busting through the door there. But then they clearly like leave it open. Like, did he kill the kid?
Yes,
or
he
not?
absolutely killed the kid.
Yeah.
But then he's got like his bag of heads, right? And all I could think of was Joe Pesci and 8 heads in a duffel bag.
Man, I loved that movie when I was definitely way too young to be watching it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But
No,
I
he
think
definitely
that's my favorite.
chopped that kid's head off because
They just didn't want to be distasteful by showing us.
But I mean,
Okay, yeah.
they set that up earlier when we find out that he decapitates the unborn child of Widow Winship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like this
Man, he's
Headless Horseman.
precise.
But is it is it the horseman or is it Lady Van Tassel? Like, I guess the horseman was sort of set up as being this really vile character, but he was also fighting the quote-unquote enemy.
Yeah, who impregnated that lady? Whose baby was that?
So
Van Tassels. Or no, Van Garrett's.
Van Garrett.
Van Garrett's. Because like, what would she must have said like, kill this lady and then kill the baby.
So the baby would have been an heir.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So she's telling.
So she did say kill the baby.
Yeah. So obviously that is not to say that like this, like the Headless Horseman is not guilty of doing this. You know, like he physically killed this baby, but it's like, is he just this sort of vessel for her? Is it actually her doing it through this like puppet? Or
well, because he saw her, she was a little girl with her and her sister in the woods, and he didn't kill them. He was just like, be quiet.
Because he is kind of,
you know what I mean?
He is evil when he was alive, but he is also sort of like a slave to her.
Mm-hmm.
It's tricky. Yeah. I don't know if I'd call it gray area, but it's
maybe he likes it.
Yeah, it's like maybe
because
he
you
is
can't
just
tell me
evil.
you can't tell me that this guy without a head, who is totally badass and knows his way around somehow without his head, can't figure out who's got his fucking head and go get it back, right?
That's a great point.
Right.
So he's kind of an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
He likes it.
Or
he loved to kill when he was alive, so why not?
Yeah. He's just on a quest for head, and he kind of likes the chase more than the climax.
Well, now it's time for a segment we like to call The Real Monster.
Run, run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man. You're a monster. I'm not the monster here. You are. You and the rest of that fairy tale trash poisoning my perfect world. Now tell me, where are the others? Eat me.
So my real monster for Sleepy Hollow is Ichabod's pickup lines. He literally says to Katrina, "Perhaps you have some witch in you." And she says, "Why?" And he says, "Because you have bewitched me."
Hey, man, I'd go home with that guy.
Lame-o.
What if she just backed away out of the scene?
She just like, it's like the snap when Thanos snaps his fingers and she just disintegrates.
It kills her.
Yeah. So
that's
Ichabod's
funny.
pickup lines.
Love it. I thought the real monster in this movie was America's broken and corrupt legal system.
Oh, okay.
You know? I feel like
Sure.
Ichabod is sort of a bright light aiming toward a future that we are sort of in, but are still sort of reaching toward in terms of justice.
Oh, man, our system is still so fucking flawed.
It's very flawed, almost more so nowadays, but in a more complex and kind of underhanded way that makes it a little harder to navigate. But the way that, you know, like the sort of like shit that Ichabod needs to wade through as a constable in this movie is, it's a little sad. But at least, you know, he is proof, he and Katrina and young Mazbeth are proof that there is always hope. A fool's hope.
Fucking bleak.
Yeah, so mine is I got two.
Okay.
My first one is, as you earlier we talked about how like the Headless Horseman can still be slowed down by like people shooting him and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah.
However, earlier in this movie, I think it's Brahm, he shoots him and thinks that maybe he killed him. The man doesn't have a fucking head. So
yeah.
I guess it's the people that think that by shooting this man without a head. Second, the coffin makers, because they made the coffins just to fit above their necks. So like to me that's kind of rude, you know, like we're never gonna find their head, so
funny.
You know, let's save the wood, you know?
I never even thought of that. That's so funny.
Yeah, I thought that was rude.
That's great. So artists
That's
are the
good.
real monsters.
Yes, the carpenters of Sleepy Hollow.
Carpenters.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Do you guys have anything else to add about Sleepy Hollow?
If you're looking for fall vibes, guys,
Yeah.
If you're
watch
feeling,
it while your girlfriend makes pinto beans and bacon, and you'll have a great time. All the scents of fall.
But I could still like sort of smell like the apple cinnamon air
Yeah, so you're
freshener
like, am
through
I
all
eating
of that.
dinner or dessert? Jesus Christ.
it's like a beanie cinnamon.
Oh, dessert
Oh
beans.
my god. So that's all the time we have for Sleepy Hollow and the Headless Horseman. Make sure to reach out to us on Twitter at I Met Your Monster. Send us a DM or a tweet and let us know your thoughts on Sleepy Hollow and the Headless Horseman, or just your thoughts on Christopher Walken in general, because he's pretty
What a
good.
guy.
Just in
Or
general.
Tim Burton, or Johnny Depp, or Christina Ricci, or Dumbledore.
Yeah, why is it all
Let us know
men?
your thoughts on
Dumbledore.
Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Or you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at How I Met Your Monster. Speaking of social media, where can our listeners find you two?
I am on Instagram at WolfMotherCasey.
And I'm on Instagram and Twitter at my name, Danny Salem, DANNY SALEMME. That's 2 M's, like the candy. Melt in your butt, not in your hand.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter
Not classy.
at Zach Winsick. And just hop on and follow us because we love to talk about horror and we'd love to meet you guys. So,
Well, here's the fun thing about following someone on social media. It is but a click away. And in doing so, you will put so much joy in our lives that to not follow us is actually an act of aggression.
well, on that note, thank you all for listening. Now go meet some monsters.